Hey there, Patty Dominguez with episode 124 of the Positioning to Profit podcast. I am so happy you are joining me. I'm in your earbuds, AirPods, all the things. And today's episode, I am sharing the 5 key lessons from a beautiful book called The Big Leap, which you may have heard of, from Gay Hendricks. And it's now 2 times that I've read the book. And this time around has been so powerful, so impactful. I just had to do an episode on it. And I know that these 5 things will hopefully shed some light on what is possible for your business too, that you can implement. Now, separately, March 1st, I am hosting a conscious crypto and intuitive trading workshop with my crypto mentor, Muirhead. No, I am not a crypto expert. I find experts and I learn from them. So this is a space which is aligned with the whole positioning to profit philosophy of just being really smart and on purpose with your money, right? How that whole topic comes into play. And because I am most definitely woo, I was searching for the right mentor in this space. And I connected with Lee last year, and it has been hugely rewarding for me. She has agreed to host a workshop to present some crypto foundations. So this isn't a how to set up your crypto wallet. No, this goes into strategy. As you know, I love a good strategy, and she is going to be sharing what is going on with the financial system and how you can really get ahead of it in a real conscious way. So if this resonates with you, positioningtoprofit.com, positioningtoprofit.com, it'll be right at the top of the page. And with that, let's get on with the show. Hey there, I'm Patty Dominguez. You're about to discover what it means to position your brand and your business to stand out. This show explores the stories of small business owners just like you who are bringing their message out to the world and impacting their tribe. So if you want to take your business to a category of 1 status, then hang with me, because this podcast shares everything you need to know about how to be more prolific with your brand so that you can have more profits. All right, Patty Dominguez here with this episode, a solo show. So every month or so, and I should say or so, because it's really been every 6 weeks, we host a book club meeting in Prolific Cafe, which is my community of beautiful mavens. And this last book club pick was awesome. And I know I say that every single time, but it's just, you're coming at it from a way different perspective when you join a book club and it's like-minded people, and people are really looking to be better, to do better, to just implement these things in life that we can learn from experts. And this time is no different. So the book that we read was The Big Leap. It's from Gay Hendricks. And I had read this the first time many years back. And the thing that I took from that book the first time that I read it was this realization that I didn't have to do everything right by myself. You know, I had this mentality that I had to do everything in my business all by myself. And it was just part of being an entrepreneur, right? Just grinding. And it was because I was hearing the wrong kinds of conversations from people like Grant Cardone and Gary Vaynerchuk. No diss on them. They're successful in their own way with the things that work for them. But for me, I thought, I'm like, okay, I got to hustle hard. You know, that was the theme, right? Hustle hard. And that's the way that I was operating. And what I came to realize is that in my mind, I thought I had to take all of it on and struggle, right? Just struggle was part of the whole deal, because I wanted to somehow, like in a weird way, feel like I earned success. And so the one thing that I learned the first time I read the book, which was really powerful, is this whole concept of making the journey a positive one where you can tap into flow states. And that happens when you're in your zone of genius. Okay. And being in the zone of genius is, so like I said, this would be the first one. And I know you may have heard this before, and I know people talk about it, and a lot of people don't live it. What I mean by that is when you are living in your zone of genius, you feel like you're not working. Even though the time that you spend on things is producing the profitability for you, you really don't feel like you're spending any effort. It's because you're in your zone of genius. When you're in your zone of genius, has this happened to you? time seems to fly by or work in your favor. And the most beautiful part of it, and the reason why I want to really emphasize that, it's like when you get into flow states, that's a great example of being in your zone of genius. So think of those times when you're doing something that you thoroughly enjoy, when it's almost like it's escapism because you're doing it and you enjoy it and you get into that beautiful flow state. That's really working in your zone of genius. And so the one thing that Gay Hendricks talks about in the book is really making a commitment to yourself to live in the zone of genius. And he believes that it's pretty possible to do it all the time. And he says, if you do that, I promise you, you're going to live a magical life, right? And his whole coaching that he has done in his career has been around helping people to discover their genius. And the first part of it is really making a commitment to living in your zone of genius. And so when you have that commitment, it must come before you know how to make good on it. So in other words, when you think of that image of you being in that state of commitment, that power of commitment is going to bring forth the means necessary for you to live in your zone of genius. So a beautiful mantra that he shares is just saying, I commit to living in my zone of genius now and forever. So I would say that that's a big tip, again, that I wanted to hear and anchor to, is that I can tell you when I gave up looking at red shiny objects in my business and focusing on the thing that I believe is my zone of genius, the thing where I can get into flow states where I pull from the grid or I get these downloads or whatever it is that you want to call it, it's like you're playing with time in such a way that it flows. Is the only thing I can say. So that is a commitment I have made to myself. And I always remind my clients, live in your zone of genius. Don't make it hard. You don't have to carry all the hats, or wear all the hats, I should say. In fact, when you do that, you are really compromising the gifts of your zone of genius, right? And knowing that when you commit to it, when you have a sincere commitment to step into your zone of genius, that allows things to unfold for you in beautiful ways, right? And so that first part of it is really asking yourself, the commitment side of it is what is that first step, okay? So if you're not sure what your zone of genius is, the question is, okay, what do I most love to do, right? So that, for example, you can do it, you love it so much where it stretches time and just like you don't get tired or bored because it really feeds your soul, right? And so when you think about it in that way, what work do I do that doesn't seem like work, right? So if you take a look at your workday, and I know I was in a space once upon a time where an opportunity came across and I thought, okay, this sounds like a really good opportunity. But I was just doing it because it was an opportunity, but it didn't honor my zone of genius. And as a result, in our company here, we were making money at it, but it wasn't bringing us joy. And in fact, it felt really heavy. So I had compromised the commitment to my zone of genius. I stepped away from it, and there's different levels. So just because you're good at something, it doesn't mean it's your zone of genius. You can be super competent at it. You can be even excellent at it, but it doesn't mean it's your zone of genius. So that's the first thing, is really recognizing, tapping in, grounding yourself again to recognize, take inventory, am I doing things that are in my zone of genius? And if it's not, if it feels heavy, then maybe it's time for you to take a look at finding that who can help you, of where you can unload that so that you're not compromising your zone of genius. Okay, the second one is even though I read this the first time, I didn't remember it until I read it again. And one of the things that Gay Hendricks talks about is just kind of reframing fear. He quotes, "Fear is excitement without the breath." And what's really intriguing about that is that how is it, as I was contemplating on this, that the very same mechanisms that produce excitement also produce fear. And any fear can be transformed into excitement by breathing fully with it. And so the idea here is that ultimately fear can be banished because fear disappears when you're fully engaged in your zone of genius. So you see how that ties in together? And so he says the best advice that he can give you is to take big, easy breaths when you feel fear. Feel the fear instead of pretending it's not there. And I know what I've learned is when I'm in that space where it's easy to get into your head, just sit in it, sit in the fear, and feel the fear. Feel the fear instead of pretending it's not there. It's that resistance to the fear that we feel that brings us into that fight or flight feeling, which absolutely sucks, you know? So take that moment to breathe and taking a full deep breath, knowing that at the exhale of your breath, you can move into that excitement state, right? And so he talks about training yourself to do it more and more so that inevitably that excitement is going to turn into exhilaration. So one of the things that you can do to apply this in your life is that when you start to worry, because worry, oh my gosh, I used to worry about everything. And the biggest gift that I gave myself is the awareness. I'm like, okay, worry literally has no positive ROI at all. There's no return on worry, there's no return on investment. And so for me, what I do now is that just notice yourself worrying about something and recognize that it's not you. These are thoughts that you're having and you can focus away from them. And so Gay Hendricks talks about this very thing. And the power of doing that, of creating that awareness and breathing to it, getting grounded. And sometimes it seems almost absurd as to how simple it is, but it really is that simple. So with fear, when you reframe it and recognize that it's just fear, fear is excitement without the breath, you can do something about it. Okay, number 3, and this one's a doozy. It is a concept that Gay Hendricks calls the upper limit problem. He says that the upper limit problem is our universal human tendency to sabotage ourselves when we have exceeded the artificial upper limit that we've placed on ourselves. So in essence, what happens is that our upper limit is created or constructed or appears early in life. And it's like this imaginary lid, okay, on what's possible. And the upper limit problem crosses the topics of money, love, creativity. And so I was experiencing the upper limit problem earlier this year because last year I had a really great year. And then in January of this year, I had an even better month compared to the year prior. And in a full confessional and transparent moment, I said to the people in the mastermind that I'm in, hey, I'm having this issue. It's really weird. It's like I'm having this great financial success, and it's almost like I've tripled my income from a year ago, and I'm almost feeling uneasy and apologetic about it. And there's something about it that I somehow think that is going to go away, or I'm going to self-sabotage, even though I don't mean to, but something's going to happen that is going to kick me back down into place. It's really weird, and I don't know what to do about it. So my mentors are like, yeah, you have an upper limit problem. And so they're the ones that suggested that I read this book again, because it is that. It's like we're bumping up against this artificial lid that was placed on our success through unconscious childhood decisions. And I can tell you that unless we solve this upper limit problem, and we all have it, we will keep finding ways to bring ourselves back down when we've blown past our old like the old way of thinking. Okay, so this can show up in so many different ways to self-sabotage. And it's literally, according to Gay Hendricks, the only problem you really need to solve, right? Because the problem, though challenging, brings priceless gifts hidden in it. And so I can tell you this is a topic that has come across in my community quite a bit in private conversations, and fascinating how it's come up. So a specific client has had a really incredible quantum leap income year. And in fact, it's continuing to grow. So she's going through some ailments like migraines, or maybe you catch a cold, or you have this uneasy feeling about you. That's an upper limit problem. So again, how do we bring this back to you? Take inventory. Have you created an upper limit problem? Are you self-sabotaging? in the cases where things are just going too well. So it creates this uncomfortability. And so you create this upper limit problem where there isn't one. And so if anything, there's an opportunity for you to explore that upper limit problem at the unconscious level of what's happening. Again, usually it starts in childhood, and it's definitely something to explore. Otherwise, you're going to keep doing it. Okay, number 4, and I think I got a little ahead of myself, so I will get to the gist. Okay, specific to worry. Okay, there's 2 types of worries that you may have. The ones connected to the issues you have control over, and then the ones related to the issues that you don't have control over. So if you're worried about something that you can change, then stop worrying and just start acting. It's as simple as that. However, most of the times when you start questioning your worries, you'll realize that they're not connected to something that depends on your actions. Some of them are about the issues and situations that have not yet arrived. So it's like we're creating all this chaos where there is none. And the fact is that this thing that you're worried about may never happen. And most of them are not even actual problems. So imagine that, all of the energy that we're expending when we do that. So when you realize that it is that kind of worry that is burdening you, accept that you cannot do anything to change it and promise yourself that you're going to resolve the problem when it does actually happen, if it does. He says, life is way too short to spend it worrying, wishing, and questioning. Instead of doing that, why don't you just live it? What a call to action. So that is one cool strategy that you can use for worry. All right, and number 5. So really the gist of this all is that we are imposing the limits to our own happiness. Our possibilities are limited only by our minds, and everything that we are doing was once believed to be impossible. So the same thing goes with happiness. Believing that happy moments are rare and short will lead you to a life lacking happiness. So the idea here is that you can change your mindset around this. It's a most crucial step in changing your reality, is recognizing that we are in fact imposing the limits to our own happiness. If you don't like how things are going, then change it. And I know that that may seem overly simple to some, but recognize that we are in control of that. We are imposing the limits to our own happiness. All right, so that was the book, The Big Leap, from Gay Hendricks. Those are the 5 things that I took away that were amazingly helpful and have been deployed in the way that I'm coaching and the conversations that we're having over in Prolific Cafe in the most powerful way. I hope that this has shed a light of inspiration for you on what you can implement in your own business. And with that, thank you so much for checking out the show, and we'll see you next time. Hey there, thanks for checking out this episode of Positioning to Profit. Please leave a review if you have gained a benefit from this episode. I appreciate it greatly, and I will give you a shout out on the show as well. I so appreciate the ratings and reviews. Okay, also for the positioning extravaganza, head over to positioningtoprofit.com. There's lots of goodies over there. It's a treasure chest of freebies as well as beautiful courses that will help you to establish your category of one and move your brand forward. And again, connect with me over on socials or on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm on the socials. So I hope to connect with you there, and I look forward to catching up with you real soon.